Since Disco Elysium is now free on Xbox Game Pass and just £5 in the Steam sale, I thought more people may be wondering if it's worth trying because, as I'll speak more about, it's a very narrative and dialogue driven game. Therefore it's going to be slower paced and more about the time you put into it rather than the price tag. And the short description of the game on Google is a 2019 role-playing game, which is, as you know, very broad. I mean, Elden Ring is an RPG game and that's almost a polar opposite of this game. As you see by the gameplay, it has that isometric style where it's almost top-down but more 3D-like, similar to Hades, which I also loved. And the narrative takes over the gameplay mechanics, so lots of NPC conversations and dialogue choices. The main thing when you do actually move around is, I guess, exploration, and the main aspects are down to how you want to play the game. So shaping the personality of your character and his headspace. The actual plot of the game, I suppose, is quite simple on the surface. You play as a detective who has a murder case to solve, traversing through the world, chatting to people and slowly making sense of everything. That's the main foundation, I could say, but from the start it already starts to spiral and fall apart, but in a good and intentional way. It's obvious very early on that the point isn't the case itself, but more so you as a character. Instantly you wake up as someone who has basically ruined their life, not remembering who you are, you don't really know anything, and definitely not how bad it's become. So it's actually sick. I mean, rather than starting from scratch like in other games where you create the character, instead in this one you discover them in this game. As well as what happened to him, you could say it's quite dark and way more human-like because you're inside this person's head and his internal monologue, which is what makes it so unique. And when I said the internal monologue, it really is. Like, there's voices that interrupt you and are categorized into different areas, like perception, electrochemistry, inland empire, suggestion, etc. They're all interrupting you over analysing situations, almost arguing with each other, and they can warn you about certain choices you make, but also nudging you with random thoughts that might be negative and not what you're even focusing on. So you do control the character in terms of moving around and interacting with the map, but mainly you're deep in your own mind and his head, and it can change within seconds. You could be trying to keep it straightforward and quite ordered, and then suddenly your intuition and intrusive thoughts tell you something's not right, as in the game. Then it can easily all become chaotic and you find yourself, trying to sort out that part instead, which is why that takes over way more than the actual case and the original plan. For anyone that loves games that give you so much independency and freedom with your character, this is what makes this game. And the crazy part is that the game never says if it's the best choice to make. You're always making decisions, but you never know if they're right, and each one shapes your character, so there's a lot of thinking involved. Of course, there's some areas where it's unknown what will happen and you have to take a risk. It could go well or not, but as an overall, the game doesn't care what's right and wrong, and that's basically the whole point. And some of these conversations can go on for a long time because of how much thought they put into the writing, even just with side small characters you meet, which is why a good chunk of this gameplay is from the first area in the game, as you can spend hours just in one bit. It requires a lot of attention to the dialogue and listening in, and if there's one game that is way better when you take your time, it's definitely this one. I mean, there's no point trying to rush through it, and you can miss so much just by skipping through a couple bits, not like I would. And there's definitely a lot of comedic parts and also dry humour dialogue, even from your voices or just other NPCs. Some are more uncomfortable or very deep and philosophical, and some just straight up weird and just try to mess with you. And this is happening all the time throughout the whole game. There could be moments that create for a well-timed joke or something and adds to a great flowing conversation, and then suddenly their words could hit harder to you and the voices are saying they're being negative when they might not be. It's crazy, to be honest. And I'm sure to someone who hasn't got a clue about the game, it could sound like I'm exaggerating, but I can assure you I'm not. This is what drives the game. And it's so human-like and real. It also embraces failure because, like I said, that could put you down a whole new route, and some choices can lead to actually death just from some dialogue choices you make and some small interactions because of your small health bar you have, as well as a morale bar. And you don't just try again if you make a quote-unquote wrong decision. It then reveals something else, or it could be a bit of a surprise to you or embarrassment. And then there's the overthinking part, which you can keep running into, and you can spend half the time looking for a tiny thing in the game, which in the plot of the murder case isn't mainly going to benefit it, but to your character it feels like it does, and it's a really important detail, and there's just so much attention to detail. So again, it's embracing that as well as the failure. You're not really trying to strictly go towards something, you're more just living in this world with a bunch of messed up decisions and maybe a few beneficial ones. So it's definitely safe to say, if you aren't a fan of dialogue heavy plots and NPCs, then do not play this game. Although I hope you can see why it's dialogue heavy from what I've covered. It's not just doing it for the sake of it, like it's the key point of the game and the narrative. And majority of the time, if the conversations and the context of it all, if that's not grabbing you, then you're sort of stuck really, as it really is just clicking text over and over when you're in those moments. And you know, if you want to nitpick over parts of the gameplay, then I did notice certain moments when you were moving around where it was a bit clunky, walking through tight spaces or going around tight corners. That's sort of out of view because of the whole isometric style. There is actually a small skill tree into the game, you could say, where you can level up certain thoughts that give you a better chance at a decision going well. Again, like in hand-eye coordination or empathy, for example. That's another part I forgot to mention. Before the start of the game, you can choose your archetype. The choices being thinker, which makes you more intelligent, knowing more facts and cool ideas, and then there's sensitive, which is what I chose, and that just means you're more psychological but just a bit more unstable. It literally says might begin to lose his mind. And then physical, which is self-explanatory. He has the strongest body and interacts through that rather than his mind. Again, still having the same amount of thoughts but way less smart, or as they say, as dumb as a rock. But you can also make your own and choose different stats, and that's the main differences between the three, the main 4 areas of intellect, psych, physique and motorics, increasing or decreasing in those parts of decision making and giving certain bonuses. And the main sidekick you have, who's your cop partner, is a guy called Kim, and he's just perfect. I mean, he helps you, either boosting you up or grounding you, as he knows your problem. But he's also very smart, has a calm and collected personality, and just reading up about the game, it seems like a lot of fans adore him, rightfully so. But the actual look on the visuals of the game are great, and again, very unique in terms of its art style, and felt very similar coming straight off playing Dishonored. It's almost like a top-down version of that if we focus on the art style, and that follows this oil painting, messy but intentionally look, especially in the characters' portraits, which are incredible. And with how different and way less typical this game is in terms of its characteristics, nothing does come close to how this game plays out. And I would love to play a newer version or something very similar, but there's really nothing ever since, nothing that gives the same feeling. And it's clear that the mechanics are nothing special, which was obvious. It's all about the tone of the game and, you know, it's dark but also beautiful nature of it. A great blend of deep writing but simple and very chill gameplay. I mean, I'm not one to play games very late at night, but this one I easily could, and those gamers who want something very casual but still immersive, then this is a great one. Whereas of course, if you want something fast and overly mechanical, then this is not going to be it. But if you're in the mood for something deep and almost life-changing without even exaggerating, I mean, it will definitely stick with you and make you think a lot. And just getting to know this character and try to help him or not, I mean, it's up to you. And just listen to this tornado of inner thoughts and his whole life. It was a big surprise to me as I went in totally blind, and I just noticed the cover of the game before and I thought it looked cool, and it's definitely a standout one. So that is my review of Disco Elysium in 2026. So it's now 7 years old, and obviously this is one of those games where it's really down to what you like, and as I said, it's 90% dialogue, but also I've covered other bits, but I hope you can sort of figure out if you want to play this game or not. If you like that sort of stuff, then 100% play it, but as I already mentioned, if you don't like dialogue heavy stuff or you want something fast, then just skip over this. But for anyone else, it's definitely worth it. And if you did enjoy this video, then let me know by tapping that like button down below, and if you enjoyed single player and multiplayer games as well, then that's what this channel does focus on. I have many playlists on a selection of games, so you can subscribe to the channel if you want to. And if you want to support me any further by becoming a member of the channel at either level 1 or 2 to gain access to various perks, then click the join button below. And for anyone that drinks G Fuel, then you can use my code CALZY on the website to get either a 10% or a 30% discount off your order, depending on when it is. And yeah, Disco Elysium in 2026. And bye bye.